Hi everyone, it's Jerry. I have an instructive game to share with you from round 9 of Norway Chess 2025 on the white end Magnus Carlsen playing against Fabiano Caruana. Okay, the opening we have here, a Catalan, and the first moment to really speak of is right about here. Now, the top two moves from this position are a4 and queen captures c4, a4, bishop d7, queen captures c4, there's a quick b5 with tempo, and then the bishop gets on this diagonal before there's any tricks. How Carlsen plays it, puts the rook in the center, allows this pawn to be hung on to for a bit. In fact, we're going to be looking at a gambit style play from here, positional compensation for the pawn. b5 here, knight e5, unleashing the bishop. And from here, this diagonal is clogged up with knight d5. Now, if c6 is played, a good approach here is to challenge this pawn right here, which is what we see in the game. b3 is a strong reply. Better than swiping this pawn. In fact, black would be for choice. If you're chopping away on c6, rook a7, rook c7 is an idea. A good approach, b3 from here. And there remains, if black is going to play in this way with c6, there would remain a question here for black's light square bishop. What are you going to do? I mean, how many more pawns are you going to put on light squares? Okay, we do not see c6. It's knight d5, in comes b3. C takes b, a takes b. Carlsen works with an isolated pawn. Okay, also a square here available to black. This is now a whole b4. But white has open lines here. Half open a file, half open c file. There are many gaps in black's camp on the queen side. These are three holes to focus on. This is really the big one of them all. The pawn watches over this. Queen has it. Backward pawn. The extra pawn black has here, not the most valuable pawn around. Carlsen also works with a central majority. This will roll in time. From here, some more development. Bishop b7, bishop a3, bishop d6, and from here, knight d3 is played. Now, if you want to help black, you would initiate the exchange on d6. So this would not be a good idea. You would really solve many of black's problems. There would no longer be a backward c-pawn. Your knight has to find a new home, and that c5 square is no longer a whole. So that wouldn't be a good idea. So the tension is maintained. The knight focuses on c5. I would say this piece is maybe one of the best pieces currently in the position. Does a very good job of controlling multiple pawn breaks by black. And it's stable. Okay, from here, knight d7, in comes e4, bishop takes bishop, rook captures, knight on rank 5 to f6, knight d2, have to watch over e4. And from here, important move, we have now a5. Now, if a5 is not played here, let's say black picks this moment to insert a flight square with h6, we would have a serious clamp down on the queen side after b4. These two possible pawn breaks, much more difficult to now get in. So black expands at this moment, plays a5, double up on the a file, and from here c5 is played, giving the pawn back, allowing the queen to watch over a5. This is better than approaching the position with c6. Again, this bishop ends up being a struggling piece. So Caruana pitches a pawn, opens the queen's eyes, and keeps the bishop's eyes opened. D takes c. And from here, after queen c7, it's b4. Now, this is a big moment in the game. The structure can change in a couple different ways. We see the capture on b4 here. The other move that was seriously being considered, I believe about 17 minutes was spent on this decision here by Caruana. I believe the other one he was considering is a4. That's a big move. These are the top two moves the computer has its eye on. Ends up going with a capture, a more open position is what we'll be looking at. Why wasn't a4 maybe played? Both players have a connected pass pawn. I believe if it's a slower position, white is maybe going to have an easier time. Something I look to here, if this structure surfaced here, something I would look to are these connected pass pawns in the squares that they control. So this d6 square, this b3 square, who will find it easier to maybe connect with those squares? Can a piece get to d6 for white? Can a piece get to b3 for black? In this slower position, I think white stands a better chance of maybe working with that d6 square. A maneuver I have in mind, should this structure surface, is rook e1 with the idea of e5, give the knight a kick, and then this knight e4 to d6. So that's something I would at least be factoring in should a4 be played. Okay, at the end of the day, a more opened position, we get a takes b4, one pair of rooks exchanged, and now rook c1. Looking to work with this pass pawn. All of these pawns passed. Okay, this is really acting just like one pawn. Where do we go from here? Well, we have to watch over the c6 advance. So rook c8. And now, I like this next move. We have queen to b2. Two things going on with this. You have these three squares you can go to target b4, but the queen is going precisely to b2 for what reason? Well, there's a positional threat here, in a way, by black. If you play to b3 instead, what is this positional threat I'm referring to? Just a sort of piece improvement here. Knight e5. I mentioned earlier the knight on d3, one of the best pieces. This is now going to be challenged. This second-ranked knight will be exchanged for the third-ranked knight. Things can easily turn in a position like this. Let's say the knights are exchanged here. The queen is a strong piece. You really want to give her a kick and weaken your king. Carlsen is factoring this in. Queen b2 cuts out this knight improvement. Okay, this is the moment black goes ahead and inserts the flight square. The b pawn picked up, b5 targeted, defended. Queen returns to b2, cutting out. Yet again, this knight jump to e5. Follow up rook a8, knight b4, and another good think here by Caruana ends up playing knight to e5 as soon as, you'll notice, as soon as that knight leaves d3, e5 available. We're going to be entering a position where Caruana is giving up a pawn, and I believe as compensation, he's sort of looking forward to potentially some counterplay against a more vulnerable white king position. So let's see what this looks like. Forceful line coming up here. We start out with f4. Once f4 is in there, we can already say that for as long as the queens remain on board, the king will never quite feel completely comfortable. It's going to require the assistance of some pieces to help defend against potential checks. Okay, follow up from here, knight c4, knight captures knight, pawn captures knight, knight captures bishop, queen captures knight, rook captures c4, and rook to c8. Another forceful move coming in with e5, hitting the queen and the knight. Knight blocks on d5, and from here, f5. Now, the follow-up at this stage is queen a6, targeting the rook. Taking this pawn on f5, you're asking for a lot of trouble here. The pawn is required pretty much to defend the pinned knight. If you're taking like this, you're asking for queen d4, rook d8, and then the rook can reroute here and put a third attacker on the knight, and there could only be two defenders. So that would be a terrible move here. We have instead queen a6, rook retreat, follow up queen a7 targeting c5. White can first take on e6, and black at this stage recaptures on e6. Now, trying to insert something clever, let's say rook captures c5 here, not a good idea. It does threaten a checkmate in one. In fact, rook captures rook, double check and mate. But if this move is played, what white can do here is capture on f7. That's check. If king f8 here, you simply get off of this diagonal here, and you're up the two pawns. This is not a good way for black to play. A point here is that if black goes ahead and takes on f7, there would follow queen f2, check. No problems anymore on the diagonal, and this rook, in fact, will be won. So no fancy in-between moves in response to this capture on e6. It's the immediate recapture. Bishop captures knight, pawn captures bishop, and queen to d4. So Carlsen is up a pawn in this major piece. Specific ending, all three of these pawns passed, but how exactly do you get them rolling? It remains still around in equal position. Computer says that black can hold this. Follow up from here, queen d7. You really can't ask much more out of a queen. Defending a pawn, also watching over both past pawn advances. So let's see the improvements from here. King g2. Don't have to worry about any queen h3 moves. I don't know how wonderful a move that would really be. Okay, a nice small improvement here by the king, watching over a couple holes. Queen c6, h4, king h8. Black at this stage pretty much doing a shuffle with the king. There isn't a great way to make improvements here with the pieces. They stay trained on c5 for a bit. Rook c2, king on g2, rook on c2. This is what I was talking about earlier. The pieces here around to help cover the king somewhat. No rank checks at this stage to worry about for white. King g8, h5, some clamp down on this structure here. King h8, king h3, king g8, king h2, sort of a triangulation there, waiting for the king to maybe go here and then act next. Caruana at this stage releases the pressure on c5, and this is a moment for Carlsen to now shift gears somewhat with one of his pieces. No longer needed to defend c5, so he shifts his attention to d5. That's covered. From here, king g2, in a way saying, should there be a line where this unprotected pawn is won, it's no longer hitting with check, so this seems to be about right. This exact square, probably the best square for the king at this stage. Follow up queen c6, same diagonal as the king. From here, rook d1, queen a6, rook e1, ready to go with e6, denied. Follow up rook b1, queen f5, rook b2. We're many moves in to this game. We're looking at move 47 next for black. And this is where we have the blunder. The time at this stage, Caruana has about 11 minutes, spent 6 minutes on his next decision. Ends up blundering here. Queen captures h5. Now, how the computer wants to play it, it says stick around on one of these three squares from each of these posts. You do watch over Either passed pawn advancing. Queen e6 is looking pretty healthy here. He goes ahead and swipes this h5 pawn. Pop quiz. How would you respond here? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, there's only one winning move here. Carlsen plays it, c6. Now, there's a big difference between the two pawn advances. Let's note a few of these differences. The c-pawn advance is more dangerous. Looking at its promotion square, c8, that square is only covered once. If you're running with the e6 pawn, this is covered twice. That's one detail. Another one is, running with the c pawn, should there be a variation where, let's say, the major pieces are exchanged, the black king is going to find it much more difficult to track the c pawn than the e pawn further away. Any other detail? Here's one important one. If you go with e6, e6 extends the scope of the queen. The queen would now be there defending d5, which would free the rook to go elsewhere. This would provide black a window to play rook f8, and now there's this idea to maybe hop into f3, rook f2, rook e8, targeting the pawn. It calls this holdable for black. Now, by running with c6, you don't have time to activate the rook like that. Not only would d5 fall, but it would fall with check. Okay, let's see what black's approach is to c6 here. King h7, e6 only now, follow up queen g6. If you try to activate the rook at this stage, there's queen d3 with check, covering f3, and from there you're ready to go with either pawn. It's queen g6 from here, rook e2, ready to push right through. Black tries one desperate attempt here, targeting this lone pawn here, defending the white king. Queen captures d5, rook a3, and after queen e4, black resigns. We're going to have a queen exchange shortly. These pawns are too strong at this point. Rook ideally placed behind the e-pawn. If black follows through and swipes g3, it's no big deal. King f2, there isn't a good follow-up. Queen exchange still there. And there's no fancy move to try and go for a perpetual check at this stage with rook g2, and then a follow-up check here. The checks will run out. This is one way you may see the checks run out, like this. No good checks from here. And if black at this stage right here, rather than capturing the pawn, has to hit the reverse button, this isn't going to work out well. You just push the pawn, push the other one. The queens will be exchanged. And at this point, you have your pick. Promote, capture, promote the other one, and there we go. Rook versus two pawns position, which is winning. Or even better, rook f4 to f8, and one of these will queen, and that queen will be maintained. Okay, after queen e4 in this one, we have a resigner here out of this Catalan. What are your thoughts with this one? Feel free as usual to leave any feedback to this video in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe took a thing or two away. That's all for now. Take care.